Tonight's regularly scheduled meeting of the Orion Township Zoning Board of Appeals, scheduled for August 8th at 7 p.m. Please call the roll.
Dan Durham?
Here.
Don Walker?
Here.
Mike Flood?
Here.
Tony Cook?
Here.
Diane Dennis?
Here.
Thank you. Next, we have the minutes from our previous meeting on the 25th of July. Do any of the board members have any concerns, or if not, a motion?
Move to accept the minutes as written.
A support. We have a motion and a support. Please call the roll.
Diane Dennis?
Yes.
Tony Cook?
Yes.
Don Walker?
Yes.
Mike Flood?
Yes.
Dan Durham?
Yes, thank you. Next, we have the agenda review and approval. Everyone's had an opportunity to go over tonight's agenda. Does the board have any comments or concerns?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Thank you, and I'll support. One more time with the roll, please.
Mike Flood?
Yes.
Don Walker?
Yes.
Tony Cook?
Yes.
Diane Dennis?
Yes.
Dan Durham?
Thank you. Yes, thank you. We'll move on to ZBA business. Before we do, it doesn't look like we're going to have too many people in the audience that aren't applicants. But if we do, I'm going to hold comments from anybody that is not an applicant to 3 minutes. These things sometimes tend to go on, and the same thing gets said many, many times. So there'll be a 3-minute time limit on comments except by applicants. First case is AB 2022-29, Theodore and Christy Adams, 2922 Saturn Drive, Sidwell, 09-20-453-023. Petitioner is seeking 4 variances from zoning ordinance 78, zoned R2, Article 27, Section 27.02, A4, and Article 27, Section 27.05. Subsection H2, number 1 is a 35-foot front yard setback variance from the required 35 feet to erect a 6-foot privacy fence 0 feet from the property line along Walden Road. Number 2 is a 10-foot side yard setback variance from the required 10-foot to erect a 6-foot privacy fence from the side property line to the east. Number 3 is a 10-foot side yard setback variance from the required 10 feet to erect a 6-foot privacy fence 0 feet from the side property line to the west. And number 4 is an Article 27, Section 27.17B, is a 25-foot wetland setback variance from the required 25 feet to erect a 6-foot privacy fence structure 0 feet from a wetland. Do we have the applicant? Come on up, whoever's going to speak. And introduce yourself, please, and your address.
My name is Ted Adams.
I'm Christy Adams.
Okay. And I'm assuming you live at 2922 Saturn.
Yes.
Okay, before we get into this, first of all, for all cases tonight, the fire marshal's office has weighed in and they have no concerns on any of them. We'll put that on the record. And we have 2 letters. One is a blanket that I'll start with. It is from Mark Tarquini at 2823 Waring Place, Lake Orion. Members of the ZBA, dear members of the ZBA, I am writing in support of the 6-foot height variance and in support of setback variances for members of my neighborhood listed below in Keatington who share a property boundary with Walden Road. I was planning to attend the meeting in person to voice my support. However, due to an unpredicted conflict, I will not be able to attend. And he is just speaking to case AB 2229, Theodore and Christy Adams, 30 to Adam Martin, 31 to Ken Backus on Walmsley Circle, 32 to Mike Humbert, and 33 to Catherine Baker. I believe all homes that share a property line with Baldwin should be allowed to have a matching 6-foot fence for safety and quality of life reasons. Walden is a highly traveled road, and I presume the traffic will only increase when the gravel section of Walden is paved in 2023. Sincerely, Mark Tarquini, Director, Subdivision 1, Keatington Homeowners Association. The other letter is from, well, what does it say? They have a AOL address up there. It doesn't do anything for me. is Hylin, that's our staff person, as a neighbor and Orion Township resident for over 30 years, I would like to submit my comments/concerns with the current proposal for the August 8th public hearing, or adding a fence along Walden Road at 2922 Saturn Drive and several other properties. For the record, I am not opposed on adding a fence for the right reasons, with all the right approvals/review, and assuming the landowners are responsible for maintenance of it. Over the years, I'm aware of issues of neighbors that have taken action on their property without all the necessary approvals, reviews, and forethought for whatever reason. I agree the old split rail fence is in need of replacement and does not provide privacy or prevent public entry. Since Voorhees Lake is a private lake, that reason is certainly important. I am assuming our homeowners association agrees. However, for reduction of noise, not sure a shadow box would be effective, but would look consistent with the fences that are already nearby. In the past 5 to 10 years, someone cut all the trees and bushes down along Walden adjacent to the canal property. Reason unknown, which did slightly increase the noise and privacy issue to nearby canal residents. Plus, traffic flow on Walden seems heavier now. There is a little land width along Walden adjacent to the canal and no seawall. So without a seawall or proper fill support, there may be soil erosion into the canal under the fence, which may pose a future concern. Please make sure that the EGLE, acronym for something, has reviewed and given their approval to this proposal also. Thanks for our comments, Linda at 2880 Saturn Drive. So that is everything for everybody into the record. Let us know what you'd like to do, please, and why.
Okay.
Well, we like the,
The 6-foot fence along Walden Road behind our house and along the property that the water that you're talking about. And then farther past that is.
The microphone's not on, sir.
There, right in front of you, there might be a button down at the bottom of that stalk.
We just got the
It's
signal from
green.
our booth back there.
Now it's on.
Yeah,
It's
you're
on.
good now.
okay.
Yeah, again, like what you said, we'd like to get the 6-foot privacy fence similar to Baldwin, to help with the privacy, noise,
When we moved in 2012, we were told by Century 21 that was already approved by the township and being paid for by the subdivision, 6-foot privacy fence all along there, because we had concerns. After we moved in, we quickly learned that that was false. So we have done everything that we can from then until now to try to get privacy, security. Neighbors have had things taken. Last summer, we had somebody standing in our beach that didn't have permission to be there and didn't understand that he couldn't be there. So it's a safety for the public as well. We've tried to put up a wood wall. We have a fire pit, so we did wood. And even though the wood was 5 feet or better, people would knock it down. They would come over it anyway. We've tried trees. We've probably put in 14 arborvitaes or evergreens over the years. They don't survive. They either get choked out by the vines, they don't have enough sun because it's pretty shady. The trees that we have there that stayed are very mature and getting to the point where they may need to be removed. And so we were kind of at a loss as to what to do for our privacy. So when we heard about the fences on Baldwin Road, we thought that that was our opportunity, so.
Question for you. Do you believe, because you live there and I don't, I live very close distance and I'm on that road every day, do you believe that the traffic on Walden has increased any? Because when they fixed Baldwin, they didn't fool with Walden, to the best of my knowledge.
Well, it's
Walden was
fixed now.
completely
They
exsurfaced.
just fixed it this summer.
And it
But yeah,
is-
I think it's grown every year. It gets more and more.
In the 10 years we've lived there, it's exponentially gotten busier, especially pedestrian, well, car and pedestrian. We did a couple different traffic studies, and certain times of the day we have more traffic than
Then
Baldwin. And the people walking back and forth it might not seem like much to you, but you're sitting in your backyard eating dinner, and someone's walking by talking on the phone, and then they stop and look you, because Walden there, the path is higher than our yard, so they're looking down on us. So a 4-foot fence isn't
Oh,
gonna help us much.
Help me understand, and by extension, the board members, how an extra 2 foot is going to help you.
Well, I think that it would help deter somebody from trying to hop over for the people that want to cut through, or if somebody wanted to take something, it's going to be harder to get it removed over the fence, because people tend to want to come from Baldwin being the shortest distance. Walden, I'm sorry, Walden. And I think that when we stood out on the path and we see the different heights, like when we put the wood up, when we get to about 6 feet, then you're not seeing the people when they walk by. You might see a little bit of a top of a head, but you're not seeing, because where the fence would be, the yard actually is kind of coming up to meet the path on, or Walden, sorry.
I personally, I don't know if the other board members share this, I only have one vote. I personally am concerned about anything going into a wetland setback. And I don't know, I'm just concerned about the fence being that close to a wetland.
I 100% agree with you. I mean, with that, we've had people like, we've had a Jeep Wrangler parked on the safety path. Got
And
out-
fishing.
Got out and fished from our property onto the lake.
Call the police.
No.
Call the police.
They
Well,
left.
They want to know
we
this
did go out
stuff.
and ask them, and they left.
You see something?
There's
Say
private
something.
property signs on there. There's other
That's-
times people walk down the path,
Call the police.
start fishing from our
People fish
property. We
through
ask
there.
them to leave.
And you're right, we absolutely should. Sometimes you feel because they can come in my backyard in the dark of night and do whatever they want. If you make somebody mad, it does make you hesitant to call the police. We do get harassed when we ask somebody why they're standing there fishing. I think it's more of a detriment. I mean, we can get a hold of EAGLE, which is the acronym in the anonymous letter that was sent to you, basically the old DNR. And, I mean, I'd be happy to contact them because I had dealt with them in my previous subdivision. And I cannot foresee that that would even be a problem, putting the fence there. If there's not gonna cause any more washout than there being nothing there currently. But I think it's more of a detriment to the community to not have something there and have somebody fall in and drown or get stuck than to put up a fence and keep somebody from trying.
I don't know about Oakland County Sheriff's Department. I've not had any contact with them personally, but it used to be, and still may be, SOP for you to make a call and ask not to be contacted. Meaning they don't come and, hey, come out here and talk to this guy. They handle it because it's better, we pay them to have people angry at them. I'd rather have them angry at your local deputy than I would at you.
Okay.
So that used to be SOP. I don't know now personally because I've
Still
not
is.
had contact.
And it may be, but it wouldn't take much to figure out.
Well, what they know and what they think they know sometimes are different.
Sure.
Thank you. Board members.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Flood.
this has opened up Pandora's box here with all the things that happen on Baldwin Road. And I see we got a letter here from the Kennington Homeowners Association Director. I'm just one voting member on this board, although I do sit on the Board of Trustees also. I believe we have a homeowners association problem here with that subdivision. That subdivision was plotted back in the 1960s under the old Subdivision Act. In essence, what they're replacing is the original split rail fencing that went around that subdivision back when there was nothing developed out here. I'm glad your realtor said so. That's the first time I heard that the township and the homeowner, this to me is where the problem lies. It should be, this is, actually, you're redoing your site plan, your approved site plan.
My feeling is that was a.
Sir, let me finish, please. But I respect you, but we have a problem in this township right now with 6-foot privacy fences. Our ordinance is outdated. It's very vague. We are judge and jury up here. We can put 15,000 conditions on here, and we're in the right because the ordinance doesn't address them. Personally, I think this is a homeowner association problem. You shouldn't have had to pay any money to come in here and try to appeal this. Your homeowner association should have done that. Did your homeowner association do a traffic study to compare Baldwin to Walden?
We
I'm
did.
not sure
A
if
de-
they do or
a
not.
developer now coming in this township, that's automatic when they put in these new planned unit developments.
Well, and like when they added, I mean, all of the traffic in the circle at Walden, we saw a ton more truck traffic after that circle was complete because the trucks avoid the circle.
Semi-truck.
So we have these big trucks delivering beer and whatnot.
You had that when you had a stoplight there.
Yeah, we
You
No,
know,
we
we
didn't
fu-
have as much as we do now.
We have
Well,
more now.
let me tell you something. For 50 years, they've been trying to get a left-hand turn light put in at Walden Road. Road Commission would not do it. Now, we have a left-hand turn at the roundabout. Most of your traffic's when that church lets out, or there's something at the school.
And rush
But-
hour.
But I agree, once they get Walden Road, the western portion, they're paved all the way to Clintonville, you're gonna have a ton more traffic on that road. Maybe the road's the same way, once they get our side fixed. Those are the three of the main east-west connectors. Personally, this might me speaking, this is a homeowner association problem. And
Well, the homeowner,
your homeowners, you pay association dues?
so you're saying that they should be fighting for us to get the, I mean, they've approved it, so I guess I'm a little confused at.
What the
you're saying.
homeowner association, to me, I sit on township board, they're kicking the can down the road, making us judge and jury, making us the bad guys if we turn you down. See, they could turn you down automatically right now, I don't know what your recourse would be. You couldn't come here. Well, I guess you could still come here, but
Right.
that's your recourse. But you are changing the site plan on that old subdivision. New subdivisions now don't have that problem. They take into all the account now, all the busy roads we got. Unfortunately, this is a 50, 60-year-old subdivision that, 50, 60 years down the road, you see what you got now, right?
Right.
So
We're doing
I
the
feel,
only thing that we knew to do.
I feel for you. I do. But just my one opinion, I think they should go back to the homeowner association somehow, them and the township, work this out through the planning and zoning, through attorneys, whatever it takes to redo that site plan. Now, I'm gonna be told by our township attorney that, these are all individual private properties now, and you inherited the problem. I know you pay association dues to maintain all your entrances there, all that beautiful landscaping and all that brick and stuff. Yeah. But they won't pay
I
for it.
also know, as I watched all these meetings, that I watched different members say, it's case by case, and
Yeah.
you need to come before us, and just because we told someone else yes or no, doesn't mean we're gonna do the same to you. So, I mean, I guess I'm gonna be a little frustrated if you say, well, this is,
We've already turned down two on Walden Road already that I know of, that I'm aware of.
you've approved on Walden.
One approved, and I think two were turned down.
So,
It's, like you
I
say,
mean, for us to pay the money and to come here and do all this time and join
I agree.
together, and then for you to say, well, sorry, your sub's gonna have to do it, that doesn't seem very fair from my shoes.
what I will base my vote on is your practical difficulty. That's the letter of the law. I feel a 4-foot fence would suffice what you got there. I went out there today, that's the first safety path to be put in the township along Walden Road. It was put in back in the 1970s. And right where that water comes in, the next to the safety path there's a 34-foot, 4-foot to almost 5-foot high barrier that is owned by the township and maintained by the safety path committee to prevent anybody from getting into that water.
Right.
Where it
Well,
dips in, yes,
yeah,
but
that's
not
what
the
you're
rest
saying.
of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right there. That's part of the safety path, when they put that
That's about
safety
5
path in,
feet, yep.
for the safety along there.
Well,
Now, I drove by your house on Saturn, and I looked out across the pond, I can't even see Walden Road through all the green growth there.
Not right now, it's great right now. As soon as the leaves fall,
Right.
you're wide open and people walk through. I planted a tree where there was an opening because people trample it. They trampled my tree.
Now, who's walking through there? Your neighbors? Is it your
No.
neighbors?
Kids, well, I mean, not.
People
our
from the
neighbors,
condos that want to go fishing, anybody.
Okay. Okay. Have you informed your homeowner association about the violations going on over there?
Well, it's not homeowners in my association that are violating. It's somebody coming from.
Have you informed your homeowner association of the violation going on?
No.
They're the ones that run your subdivision.
They're not police, are they?
Your homeowner association, you guys got a very strong homeowner
So
association.
if somebody comes from Walden down onto the ice and enters the lake, this association is to take care of that?
What beach can they go on? Which beach are they allowed?
These
Who
people
knows?
aren't
We
allowed
don't
on any
know.
beach,
We
Yes,
they
they
don't
are.
live there.
Yes, they
No,
are.
no, 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 no. We
No.
don't know where they.
Pardon me, ma'am, pardon me, let me finish. Don't jump to conclusions. The KOA beach over there off of, where you got the marina,
Eaton Gate.
Eaton Gate,
that's for you folks.
Yep.
Their beach is on the other side, on the east side,
if they're coming from the condos, yes, but we don't know
condominiums.
that's where they're coming.
Exactly.
We don't know
Exactly.
that that's where they're coming from.
But I mean, they have beach access to that lake, but not your beach, the
If
other.
that's, yes, in the one
Exactly.
instance, it was somebody from the condos, in
Exactly.
another instance, it was
Right.
somebody driving and pulled
But I'm
over.
going to my conversation now, is I'm not going to be in favor of any, I made this comment, we had a 2-hour meeting here, last board meeting, on just 2 cases, and they still didn't get resolved, they're coming back. I'm on record right now, until this township addresses this outdated ordinance, I'm not in favor of any 6-foot privacy fence in this township.
Except for all the ones that were already approved. And that's,
I'm saying, you heard what I said, I'm on the record, that's it, I'm done, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I don't want to argue.
Board members? Okay, public comment. Now, this is a unique situation. Usually I call for public comment to a specific case. I believe you're probably waiting for public comment? Sir, are you waiting for public comment? Okay. Would you rather speak before or later? I'm thinking if you had public comment.
I'd like to speak now if I could.
Please, come up, introduce yourself.
Because I'm familiar with their situation specifically.
Not only that, your time will be, it will
Paper,
involve,
sir, behind you.
Well, thank you.
you coming up now, anything you have to say will possibly have bearing on all the rest of the cases.
Perfect. I thought you were going to say we'll be up against.
Not at all. Please keep in mind the time limit if you would.
Can you give me 5 minutes?
Yeah, there's nobody else here. We'll go 5 minutes. Just introduce yourself with your address, please.
My name is Mark Rossi. My address is 2650 Waring Drive, Lake Orion, Michigan. I am the first one that was approved for a fence on Baldwin Road. I'm the second house from the corner, Baldwin Eaton Gate. So I don't see a whole lot of difference between their situation and mine, except theirs is amplified. And it's amplified because of the access to their land on the Walden side of the lagoon there and people's access. The security issue is huge to me. My neighbors were robbed. People have been in my backyard. This has been going, I've been a resident for 34 years, and I've tried to do this many times in the past. Finally, we were able to do it. And the reason is, times change. Things have changed. Our township has changed. When I moved here, Walden was gravel, no stoplights. Baldwin went around in circles before they straightened it out more because of traffic deaths. This neighborhood has changed tremendously. So us homeowners that live in Keatington, bordering Baldwin and Walden Road, those are the only 2 roads we have to worry about with this. Our quality of life has tanked to the point where if I wouldn't have had my fence approved, my wife and I would have sold, and we love living here. We have as I was saying earlier, we have in our marina, we have a pontoon boat, our grandkids come. We don't want to move, but I would have, because it's terrible. I invite anyone to come and sit in their backyard on their back deck near they call it a beach, and see what the noise level is like. Why is theirs worse than mine? Theirs is worse than mine because they have it 24/7, 365, with the church and all the activity there. During the school year, buses, kids, nonstop. And the people's access, you called it a barrier. You called it a barrier on Walden to keep people from going, the safety side from going onto that lagoon area. It's not a barrier. It's 3 rails of a fence with a thing you can put your arms on. That doesn't stop anyone. So the quality of life that's affected by the changes in our township, our wonderful township, affect us more drastically than anyone else from what we had before. We have a joke at my house, and in Italian, a creek is called a rugario. And my wife made a sign for me to put on our patio 5 years ago saying, Mark Rossi's rugario. So, because it sounds like a running, babbling brook all the time. Now, the security aspect and the safety aspect is threatening them every single day. Why do I say that? Because it threatened me every day. And now, someone had mentioned earlier about a 4-foot fence will suffice. Heck no. Because even though someone could possibly scale a 6-foot fence, that's not an easy, unobtrusive scaling. You're going to hear it if you're home, you're going to see it, we have lights, things like that. So you feel much more secure, and not the least of all, just having the impact of the visual aspect of it, where people can see every single thing you do in your backyard. Would you like that? I don't think so. And that was never that way before, but the growth, especially in the last 10, 12 years, is exponential, just exponential. So all of these people went through the same thing my neighbors and I did. I can tell you that my quality of life has improved 10, 20-fold. Is it noisy still? Yes, I'll take the noise, because I don't have the sight, the people staring at what's going on in our backyard, them seeing what's going on, casing our house, maybe, I don't know, but it gives us some visual security as well as the rest of security that we have with this. So that's my position on it. And of those of us that live along there, and you can tell on Baldwin Road, the number of people that have done it. The only one that I can think of that didn't was a rental house that the guy didn't want to put money on. But the township has saved residents, all of us, by having this done, and we're happier people with it there, not because we want to exclude ourselves, because we'd like the same privacy that you folks have. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess maybe we would also want to say that we're willing to work with you if there's like a setback issue, if there's anything that we can do. There's not much we can do along the water's edge because it's pretty steep if you go too far back off that split rail as far as a setback. But, I mean, we're willing to work with you because we feel that this would change our day-to-day quality of life and enjoying our property and our property value.
Hey, Mike, you said you were out there today? Is that right?
What?
You were out there today?
Yes.
I don't know if you probably looked at all the properties, but my particular property, there's a very large tree.
Oh, yeah, you got a couple of them in there.
Of the wood pile.
Right.
Our real idea would be to have that fence go this side of that tree. So that tree
So
would
you'd
be
be
on
willing
the
to come
outside
back?
of the fence. I don't know how many feet that is, 4 or 5. I don't know exactly where the property line is, but assuming it's in the middle of that split rail.
I have to ask this question because if I don't, somebody else will. Have you considered greenery?
Yeah, we
As I mentioned
planted,
earlier, we planted, I think,
I don't know, 14, 15.
evergreens. 3 have lived.
we have
We just
3
lost one
left.
again this year because I don't know, there's not enough sun, the vines take over. We've had a heck of a time trying to get things to grow in there, and
Do
we've
the
been
tr-
trying for 10 years.
I'm sorry. Do the trees that are withholding the sun, do they belong to you?
I would assume so, yeah.
I don't know if that big one is.
I don't know. Again, I don't know
The
where
one is this
exactly.
really
that
large one that I
tree-
don't believe is
You were
ours.
out there. Do you think that large tree is on our physical property? I think it is, but I don't know.
I don't know what the road right-of-way is on Walnut. See, a lot of that got taken down by the road commission
Yeah.
because,
Right
There's-
before we
yeah,
moved.
because those are, trees are in the road right-of-way. And, well, you saw what happened to the house there on the corner when they put the roundabout in.
Yeah.
That was all road, Oakland County Road Commission stuff they took out. They didn't take out one tree of that lady's.
Do you have
That's the
children
problem
living
with
with you?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you have children living with you? Okay. Thank you. Board members?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Walker?
now you know that you can have that fence that you want if you don't put it on the property line, without coming here, without doing anything. You can have a 6-foot fence. Do you understand that part of the deal?
Oh,
If we
wait.
moved it in 35 feet,
Well, not all, one is 35 feet, but the other 2 are 10-foot variances.
the other 2 fences, we wanted a variance for the side yards. The fence would not continue up in between the houses. The variance was only so that when our neighbors each get a
That
fence,
each
they would
fences
touch
would
instead of
touch.
having a 10-foot gap and a 10-foot
A
gap.
20-foot gap. Is that what you're talking about?
But I'm saying you could put it up, but not on the property line. You could put the 6-foot fence up. You understand that?
Okay, I guess I want
35
clarification.
feet back from Walden.
Right.
Yeah.
We didn't really want to lose 35
That's-
feet of our
That's a
yard.
lot. I mean, that would probably be into our physical beach that we have sand and seawall. The seawall now would be outside that fence.
But that's part of my problem with all of these. I'll go back to the beginning, and I think, I'm sorry, sir, I forgot your name. We walked in together. Yes. And I believe, I did vote for your fence. I believe I did. But that was the only fence I voted for. After that point, I realized that what I had done, I thought was a mistake with regard to my interpretation of what the ordinance says. I understand that the rest of the board did not follow my lead on that. And until recently, as this come up. But the problem is, as you've heard the term practical difficulties here, it goes to the land. It's complaints about noise. I get that. Everybody gets that. We moved in at the same time, Mark. We've lived here for 34 years. Nobody lived here when we moved here, did they? 24 was a 2-lane highway when I moved in here. Now it's a nightmare, but it's a nightmare for everybody. And if we would have to find a practical difficulty for every one of the 38,000 people in the township, if that's what they wanted to do. And I think it's the wrong solution to the problem. I think the right solution would be to change the ordinance, if that's what the folks want in the township want. We're not here to impose our will on you folks. We're not. Will I ever see your fence if you put it up? I might not ever see your fence in my entire life. So it doesn't matter to me, but it matters because it's not a precedent, but it sets the tone for everything. And that's my concern, especially with the wetland issue. And
Being what with the wetland? The wetland issue?
Wetlands are, when a developer wants to come in and build something and it affects a wetland, we won't let them do it. So I don't see how we can let you do
Putting it
it.
in the same location as the current split rail fence that was already approved
It
when the
wouldn't be in the
subdivision put it in.
wetlands at all.
Well, you're asking for a variance from the wetland ordinance.
Right.
I guess there's already an existing fence there, so I was assuming that
but-
had
but-
already been.
All right. And I don't want to argue with any of you. I truly don't.
We just want to make sure that you truly understand.
I do. I
There is
completely.
a split rail fence, and we were just wanting to replace that with higher. And I think it's a safety for the surrounding area. We had an autistic boy standing in our water by our circulator, which is like a mini prop.
Basically a 6-inch prop that's spinning around
And
at
then my
whatever
dog comes
speed.
out running at him. He's scared by the dog. I mean, this is a real thing for me, trying to keep, and we've been trying to do greenery. We've been trying to do everything that we can to mitigate those issues.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Goodloe, correct me if I'm wrong. The primary thing, as Mr. Walker alluded to, that we have to look at is practical difficulty. Practical difficulty is something about your parcel of ground that makes what you want to do necessary to be able to enjoy a substantial property right. And it sets that apart from other property in the township. So what is, and I hate to use this word, but I'll use it, what is special about your piece of property that isn't mirrored all over town? Is that pretty much sum up practical difficulty?
Yeah, you're looking for unique circumstances that apply to the property. Exactly, Dan.
Which again would be the safety of worrying that somebody's gonna come and drown on my property, on my watch, and I couldn't do anything about it. If I had a
certain-
pool, I could.
And again, I don't want to, and both the other board members have alluded to it, I don't want to start this and this. It's not helpful for anybody, and we got a lot of people waiting, and we're 35 minutes in already. But how certain are you that all of the hazard, I mean, the noise, the people walking by, obviously you're certain of that, but the people that are coming into your property from wherever, how do you know they're not coming from inside?
Well,
they
we've
go
visually
both
seen,
ways.
we've visually seen a majority of them come from Walden Road from the safety path.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, yeah, we've seen them. They
Witnessed
walk
them.
from Walden to Saturn and from Saturn to Walden. Most of the time, it's probably kids.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Mr. Naskis, please.
Can a berm be built on a property line?
Yes, as long as it doesn't cause excessive drainage to adjacent properties, you can build a berm on the property line.
And can a 4-foot fence be put on a berm on the property line?
Yes.
I share my board members' concerns about the 6-foot fence. I've been in neighborhoods when we've gone to look at requests for this. They look like stockades. I mean, it's not the kind of look that I feel is attractive or appropriate in a community, unless there's really a true need for it for safety or another significant issue. I do also share the view of Mr. Flood that I've driven that many times. I've looked at it because of the other requests we've had. You have several issues going on there. You have trees that are mature and not necessarily healthy and not necessarily, they're dropping, I think they're walnut trees or some type of nut tree. You have a lot of overgrowth, things that have overgrown, preventing new plants and new greenery from being healthy when you plant them. The split rail fence, there's no point to even keeping those for any reason. But I'm thinking, can you look at putting a berm or something, agreeing with your neighbors, putting a berm up and putting a 4-foot fence, which would give you the privacy, which would be attractive. You could plant flowers or plants on your berm, which would give some greenery, and make it in that way attractive, safe, because people can't just walk into your yard. And with the berm, it would, if it's, up here, it's going to help you with that visual aspect and some of the sound, hopefully. And you don't have to use a chain link fence. There are other kinds of 4-foot fences that you can purchase that are more solid. So I'm just looking at, I do believe this is an issue with your homeowners association. I think they should be tackling this with you as a group, because this is a long stretch of property with many, many homes, and you all share these issues that were created 50 years ago with no plan for what to do, and I can't think of any residence that doesn't need, or yard that doesn't need something pretty major after 50 years. So I'm just asking, can you look at other alternatives that might meet your needs, and can you work with your association to perhaps come up with a plan?
We can certainly look at that. My biggest frustration right now is, I don't feel that my practical difficulty, I feel that my practical difficulty is worse than Mr. Rossi's. So that's frustrating to me that you're telling us one standard, and then we're just done with that, and now we've changed our idea of what practical difficulty is.
The only thing that I can tell you is that these cases are looked at on a case-by-case basis. There's no blanket. Do I wish that they'd have gone the way they went? I can't say that I did, but they're there, and they're in, and they were approved. But every case has to be looked at separately. And as Mr. Walker alluded to, there's 38,000 people. I don't know how many individual pieces of property, but there's nothing to prevent anybody that owns from coming in here and asking for the very same thing you're asking for. I have worked in other municipalities, and they were a lot looser on almost everything. You get a bunch of these things lined up as an enforcement person, be they fire, police, whoever they are, you can't see what's going on at all. And things happen in neighborhoods that are now screened by these stockade fences. And if I was to come to your property, I could not come on your property without your express permission, without being charged for trespass. I mean, we did for this because part of the process to allow, or to come in for a variance is to allow us on your property to inspect and look. But otherwise, if I walked on your property tomorrow, you could tag me with trespass. So I'm leery of big, huge walls going up and shielding things that are happening. And I'm going to say it with only homeowners in the room, sometimes it's on the part of the homeowners that people have to be most concerned. Just take it for what it's worth.
May I ask a question? With your concern for the wetlands area, would a 4-foot fence keep people away from that?
I don't,
If you're worried about someone accidentally,
No, it's not
well,
accident.
the split rail fence is about this high in most areas, and they go right over it. I don't think 4 feet is gonna stop anybody.
A 4-foot fence, you could jump over a 4-foot fence if you really wanted to.
I understand, but then I've made a choice, haven't I? So I'm asking for,
Sure,
to
and
keep
they make a
away
choice
someone
anyway.
who, a child, as you said, or,
I
Our
don't think
experience with-
anybody is going to accidentally fall in. They're gonna be over there in the water, getting to the water. I guess my question, to your point, with the berm, 4-foot fence, what's that gonna look like if I put up a berm and a 4-foot fence of type A, my neighbor puts up type B, type C? In my opinion, that does not look good.
Well,
Versus what
that's
they
what-
have on Baldwin Road, I think that looks good myself.
Ms. Goodlow?
So when you're dealing with dimensional variances, I have some training material that they actually teach at MSU for planning and zoning. And it pretty much says, if circumstances on which a variance is warranted are shared among numerous properties in the same zone, and the variance request should be denied. And it's because it's not particular to that property, when you're talking about being along a main road like Baldwin. If we held the standard of noise as practical difficulty, everybody and their brother could do it just because they claim that it's loud. We can't verify that, right? I think this is a bigger issue for the subdivision, like Mr. Walker said, having, each subdivision has a site plan, right?
The noise is
I
the
don't know.
least of our. we
And
were
the
just trying to
security?
think of everything.
So
Security was
do
probably-
you share that
Safety.
security among your other neighbors?
Right.
So I'm just telling you what it takes to get a dimensional variance. Usually a dimensional variance is because of the property, the shape of the property, or if the property has 2 front yards. Those are dimensional variances, practical difficulties that are not, they're to the property, not the individual person. When the ZBA grants a variance, it goes with the property. We've had some in the past where we talk about dogs and whatnot, and neighbors disputing. Those aren't issues. Yeah, it would be great to have a fence between the disputing neighbors, but it's not a practical difficulty, which allows you to, essentially, they're allowing you to break the law. And if it's shared among all the neighbors on Walden, it's not unique to that property. And that's just my opinion.
Thank you. Cook, you got anything?
No, I'm not a fan of the 6-foot fences at all. I mean, it's, and then when I'm listening to them, and I'm trying to come up with a practical difficulty, and then just hearing what was just read in terms of a commonality, it just kind of helps me to sit back and say, okay, I'm on the right side of this. And then when you throw in the wetland issue with it also, there's a reason that there's a setback when it comes to wetlands. So that's why I'm being very quiet on this, because I'm trying to find a reason to change or to see what makes this unique, and I'm not finding that.
I don't think everybody on Walden can have somebody come into the lake and drown, but
As
that
a
might
matter-
just be me, because
as a
it's gonna
matter of
be
fact,
on me when they
We are the only
do.
ones on Walden, somebody can come in and drown in the lake. The only ones. So that is, but anyway. Okay.
Let me interrupt you just a moment. The gentleman in the back that said you may be considering public comment, anytime during this, come on up or put your hand up and we'll bring you up. There are. Okay. Well, just let me. There you go. We'll get you right up. Okay, we seem to have run out of comments up here. We've tried to offer a couple of alternatives, and I know they're not well received. we're in a position that we all unknowingly signed up for. We've never had mass requests for the same thing like this. We used to get a barn, too big barn, and somebody wanting a too high fence, and, you know, they varied. But this is a blanket request from a number of properties, and they all share basically the same issue. Now, the gentleman there just brought up the fact that you do have possible people in the water as an additional issue with your property. But beyond that, they all are pretty much in common. Changing the ordinance would be the ultimate way to go.
How did you do that?
Well, I was just going to say, I've not seen anywhere in my travels government move quickly on anything. I'm just going to be honest, no more so here than other places that I have worked. But that would probably, and Mr. Flood can help me with this, they would probably have to make a presentation to the board possibly.
Who's that?
Anybody that was looking to get an ordinance change heard?
Right now, we have an ad hoc committee that's supposed to be addressing that, this same problem.
Okay. Mr. Flood?
You can apply at any time as an applicant at the clerk's office to amend an ordinance. And then you would take it to the board.
Okay.
There's an application for an amendment of ordinances.
And then is it a vote, or who decides whether that happens or not?
Township board.
The township board?
Several notches above us, which is good for everybody. 1 second, sir. If you need to come up, when these folks have had their say. Now, obviously, to be successful, you're going to need 3 votes. And the temperature of the room, I'm not going to try to say. You have a couple options. You have one option, which is to request that a vote be taken on precisely what you brought tonight. Or you can ask that it be postponed to a date down the road. But that would only work in your favor if you were able, and it doesn't sound like you have the latitude to make changes that might be more palatable to the board members. If you could bring your application back with some additional information, or you looked at this fence and it's going to be a little bit easier for you, then it might be in your favor to pull it back. But those are the options that you essentially paid for when you signed up to come in tonight. If you have any specific questions for any of the board, please bring them up, because everybody in the room is going to be on the same plane when they get up here.
The question I have is obviously the water. Like, for instance, along my property and then my property that's on the other side of the water, I'm okay to come back 5 feet. I'm not, no issue at all. I'm not on the property line, right? Come back in 5 feet. Obviously, I can't do that at the water. I'd be in the water.
So they're saying if we
Right.
wanted to come back, we could go to the DNR.
So can
And get the
we,
information.
what if, is it possible to stop at the water from neighbor's house to the water, stop with the fence from the water, stop and go to the next property?
I am not qualified to give you that option on the fly. I mean, I don't know your property. Maybe somebody else here does, but that would require you to ask to it for your case to be postponed and come back with different measurements and a different drawing and try again. Mr. Goodlow?
They can request a lesser variance from the board
Yeah.
at this time, too, as well.
They can. But you're saying back 5 feet, you wouldn't be able to give us hard numbers on where that would put you. Am I right or no?
Probably not.
Where that
I
would
mean,
put us in relation to, what if we came back 5 feet off the property line, it would be 5 feet off the property line.
So you would know where to strike the fence tomorrow. I mean, you'd know where to put it up. Because normally, the only reason that I'm asking is because when this is over, you need to walk out the door knowing what you just agreed to, and the board needs to know what we can hold you to when the time comes. There can't be anything up in the air. Well, they seem like they're going to do the right thing, and so we'll go ahead with it. It has to be hard numbers. Mr. Walker?
The problem, I can see this as another problem down the road. If in fact you were to agree to move those fences in, and your neighbors didn't agree to move those fences in, then the fences wouldn't line up.
Well, but you'd be voting on mine and deciding my fence and not anybody else's. because
Right,
We're doing
right.
case by case, right?
But at the same time, we consider each property, independently, but there's, in our back of our heads, there's this global, what would that look like if that all happened, and do we want that to happen?
That's exactly why it is, if you have the same thing among all the neighbors, it's not unique to the property, because
Right.
you can end up with scenarios like that. That's why it's written. One of the reasons, I'm assuming.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Flood?
tomorrow morning, they could put a 4-foot fence on their property line all the way down Wallen Road, perfectly legal.
That's true.
It's the way the ordinance reads. It's the homeowner's choice. 4 foot, they can put on the property line, that's in their ordinance, no questions asked.
I
No
would
questions
have to
asked.
look at the wetland though, because the wetland is a little different.
Right now, you have an existing 4-foot fence. Right now, the township did put in along that safety path. As long as they didn't go, stayed on,
Just checking.
yeah. Because I'm looking at their property line wouldn't, if you look on the map here, it would just go straight out, it wouldn't go in. And the township already has one sitting there. So they are protecting anyone involved. That's a liability issue there, that's why they put that in there. If anybody climbs over that fence, that's their fault for climbing over a fence. Anytime you climb over a fence, that's, same thing with a swimming pool. Anybody can climb over a fence to get into a swimming pool. But you're just trying to, they took that extra effort to get over. And that's where you get your lawyers involved and your insurance company and to protect yourself.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Walker?
this is the first that I've heard that a citizen can just fill out a form at the township hall here and put a request into the Board of Trustees. That's all new to me.
No,
No, I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm not saying that, but why didn't someone do this a long time ago?
To
To,
answer your question, Mr. Walker,
please,
anything to be put on the agenda has to be approved to be put on the agenda. Anyone can make a request to go to the township board, but if they don't want to see anything on the agenda, it can be removed from the agenda.
but no, as far as we know, no one's ever asked the board to do that, right? A citizen has it come before the board that you know, or?
yeah, we actually had some citizens come in and ask us to write an ordinance because we had issues with bubblers
Yes.
on lakes. And they requested that it would be put on the agenda and considered. And we actually passed a nuisance ordinance that mentions bubblers. So
Well,
there
couldn't
is
this
precedent.
couldn't this issue be handled in that way?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why it wouldn't. We put Mike and Planning Zoning put on a ad hoc committee to try to get to the bottom of some of these
Right.
things,
But we seem to have just spun our wheels so far.
Well, to give you some information, just this week, because of our last meeting dealing with the 2 hours on those 2 cases,
Right,
they're looking right now to get the ad hoc committee back together
okay.
to help get this resolved. And a doodle poll went out yesterday or today. Now we're trying to get all the members together, to get going on this.
Because to have 1,000 citizens over time come back and make the same request
Yeah.
to us,
It's not fair to them.
it's not fair to them, not fair to us, not fair to anybody.
Right.
I mean, it should be whatever it is.
And one thing too, the way the ordinance is set up now, and this is another problem we have, they have 2 front yards,
Right.
35 feet. See, that, to me, that doesn't sound right, but that's the way the ordinance reads right now. That's another issue that needs to be resolved in this criteria. Normally, if it's a backyard, what is it, like 10, depending on the size of the lot, usually it can be anywhere from 8 feet to 10 feet, depending on what their zoning is. So there's a lot of things to be considered. But in this case here, I still think with that old subdivision, this is a homeowners association, they should be addressing this. Not having these folks have to pay $200, whatever it is they have to pay to come to this meeting. And if they don't,
That we all paid, so I wish this could
Yeah.
have been handled beforehand before we
Yeah.
all
Well-
gave this much money.
we don't have control over that. You do have recourse. If you get denied here, you have a recourse to appeal this decision. And that's
You?
that's an,
Same board?
Oakland County Circuit Court is where you go. That's the state law. That's in our ordinance, plus it's the Michigan state law. You have an appeal process. Right. I don't know if a lot of residents know that or not, but that's the law.
Okay,
Township Board has no say on this whatsoever.
Before we move too much further, the gentleman sitting partway out on the left there, did you want to come up and speak, sir?
Yes, I'd like to speak. I don't care if I come up there or not.
You need to come up
You
here,
have to, so
Come
I
up.
think we record you.
introduce yourself, and these folks will surrender the mic briefly.
The reason I want
Fine.
to speak a little bit is I'm almost deaf. I notice you're grinning about that, but again, I couldn't hear as good as I'd like to. I realize that's none of the board's fault or anything, but it's, so I think a few things were on my mind here. Where I've lived here in my house about almost 60 years in Keatington. I don't have the exact date, so I know somebody's up there, brains probably working, say, I don't know if this guy's telling the truth or not. We're checking you out right now. Okay, but that's how long I've lived here. I bought one of the very first lots in Keatington. I live right across the canal from these folks. My backyard backs up to Walden Road. My backyard does. And so I've been there all these years. So I watched the school being built, I watched the Kroger's and the shopping center being built, everything. A couple of things that come to my mind that I'd like to talk about. I'm definitely in favor of the things that they have said, and they've done most of the work towards this problem we have. One thing that I think could be considered to be taken into account in favor of the higher fence is, one thing that hasn't been spoken of is, especially where I live, you ever watch those big trucks, the big semis, when they go down Walden Road and they leave the back of Kroger's where they unload? That's where they unload practically in my backyard. I didn't bring that up, but I am going to bring it up now that this is coming up.
Sir, one moment, please. Please direct your comments to the general situation, because your case has not been called yet. We're talking about these folks' case and the general situation in the sub.
But doesn't that kind of fit into, with that, how could that fit in? If I had a taller fence, maybe my noise level would come way down, and maybe I wouldn't have to sue the state of Michigan to get me some hearing aids. Now, I'm kidding, I'm joking. But I have, that's a case here. I don't remember being asked, do I worry about that shopping center coming, which I use it and I like it and everything, so I'm not against it. But that kind of infringing on my life a little bit. Maybe if we had had a bigger fence put up or put one up now, maybe it'd be a lot better. I just wanted to speak my time so I could say it. Another thing that's on my mind. If we could take some random people around a mile area of there, ask them, they drive down Walden Road or they drive down Baldwin Road, and they look at the new fences that are on Baldwin, and they drive down Walden Road and see the existing fences that are there now, what's more attractive? Don't you take it into account, something that's attractive? Walden Road's ugly. I live on it, it's in my backyard, it's ugly, the old fence. There's half a dozen different kind of fences along there now. Wouldn't it be a lot better if we copied the one that's on Baldwin now? Maybe I'm approaching this the wrong way, but I think when the weeds and the weeds, they're high up now, so you don't see too much of that. But in the spring or in the fall, when you can see these different fences and stuff, I think the one on Baldwin, the nice new ones,
are much more attractive than the thing that's there now. Much more attractive. I wish we had some people that had an impartial view in this room that could be asked that question. Does that fence backyard on Baldwin look better or worse than the ones that are in our backyards now?
Okay, is that what you wanted to come up and,
That's basically it.
okay. Thank you for
Okay.
your input.
Just wanted to say that.
Sir, are you an applicant for another case?
I would like to speak on behalf of Ted Christie for this case specifically.
Come on up, introduce yourself.
My name is Adam Martin. I live next to Theodore and Christie. One of the things I want to point out, because we talked about a unique detriment to their specific case, what they have is what's considered an attractive nuisance. People that visibly drive down the road, they see access to the water. That is the visible nuisance, the attractive nuisance. And the detriment, the unique detriment that they have specifically is that it's so easy and inviting for individuals, whether they're in our community or not, whether they're in our subdivision or not, to feel that they have access to that space. It's not known, it's not widely known that that space that goes all the way around to Ken's property is actually personal property of Ted and Christie Adams. So they assume that that is public property for them to do as they will. And when you go out and tell somebody, this is private property, you gotta leave, now, the person that's mad at you knows exactly where you live. I know you had mentioned, call the police, that's the right thing to do, stay anonymous, that's great. And that's the proper course to go. But when it comes to unique detriment, I think out of all of our cases that you're going to see today, these guys have the most unique detriment for their request for variance than probably any of us here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay,
I did want to say one other thing in response to Ms. Damascus. I don't believe, my understanding as far as the wetlands, when you were mentioning a berm, because I actually thought that when I first moved in, I'm like, well, we'll just slowly build up a berm and then plant trees on top of that. We can't do that in the long stretch. We can where we have like our yard, if you will, but where it's bordering the wetland, that would be an Eagle issue, or the DNR, where the fence that's there is not. So that would not be something that we could easily do.
okay.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just thank you.
I am going to have to ask you for final comments. We have a bunch of people, and we've been an hour into this.
That was it.
So, sir, do you have anything else? And what you're going to have to do is tell the board what you would like the board to do in your particular case on this day at this time. Because we talked about things that can be done behind, off the road, at the clerk's office, things that can be done other than right here, right now. But unfortunately, all of us are focused on right here, right now. So what would you like this board to do?
You can vote.
You want us to take a vote on what you brought? Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. Do you feel that you have any particular practical difficulty that other people don't have that are in this room tonight?
We do.
And that is?
As we outlined earlier, the safety of the community of people coming in and accessing the water.
Okay, so it would be the water situation different than everybody else. So you would like the board to decide when they're deciding whether or not to even offer a motion in this matter, you would like the water and the danger, potential danger, to be right up front, correct? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I want to be sure we're thinking of the right.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying.
What do you mean by upfront?
Because you've heard, I think, enough go on up and down the line here where you're not going to get a groundswell of support probably based strictly on,
If you're asking our number one concern, the water and the safety of it would be our number one concern, yes.
very good. I think we know what you'd like us to do. Board members, anybody have any comments, any concerns? Any motions? We're in neutral, we've got to move forward. Okay, let me ask specifically, do we have somebody prepared to make a motion in this matter to deny, to approve? If so, now's the time. Okay, I see nobody willing to,
All right, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Walker.
In the matter of ZBA case AB 202229, Theodore and Christy Adams, 2922 Saturn Drive, Sidwell number 0920453-023, I move that the petitioner's request for 3 variances from zoning ordinance 78, zone R2, Article 27, Section 27.02A4, and Article Section 27.05H.C. Number 1, a 35-foot yard setback variance from the required 35 feet to erect a 6-foot privacy fence 0 feet from the property line along Walden Road, and 2, a 10-foot side yard setback variance from the required 10-foot to erect a 6-foot privacy fence 0 feet from the side property line to the east, and a 10-foot side yard setback variance from the required 10-foot to erect a 6-foot privacy fence 0 feet from the property line to the west, and 4, from section 27.17B, for a 25-foot wetland setback variance from the required 25-foot to erect a 6-foot privacy fence structure 0 feet from the wetland be denied because the petitioner did not demonstrate that the following standards for variances have been met. In this case, the petitioner did not demonstrate practical difficulty, and that from the discussions we've had with the petitioner, these concerns that the petitioner has does not run, with the possible exception of the water issue. I'm a little shaky on that one. I think maybe something like that could be done, but I'm not going to do it as it sits now, because I'm not going to ask this board to do a variance from that setback from the wetlands. We have 5 cases today which very much will run the same line this does, but again, all of these cases are not, none of them go right to the individual property owners themselves. It's the issue of the noise and the too many people and trespassing, but that's issues that are known everywhere, and the township is no different than anything else. All of these things apply. Everyone in the township can ask for these same things, but it's not practical difficulty due to the individual ownership of that particular property, and therefore I would move that this board deny the request for variances.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Walker and support by Mr. Cook. Any additional concerns or comments by the board? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Diane Danaskis,
Yes.
Tony Cook,
Yes.
Don Walker,
Yes.
Mike Flood,
Yes.
Dan Durham.
Yes.
Carries.
Next case. We have AB 2022-30, Adam Martin, 2936 Saturn Drive, 09-20-453-024. Petitioner is seeking 3 variances from zoning ordinance 78, zoned R2. Article 27, Section 27.02A4, and Article 27, Section 27.05H2. Number 1 is a 35-foot front yard setback variance from the required 35 feet to erect a 6-foot privacy fence 0 feet from the property line along Walden Road. Number 2 is a 10-foot side yard setback variance from the required 10-foot to erect a 6-foot privacy fence 0 feet from the side property line to the east. And number 3 is a 10-foot side yard setback variance from the required 10-foot to erect a 6-foot privacy fence 0 feet from the side property line to the west. Applicant, please come up, introduce yourself, let us know where you live.
Thank you. My name is Adam Martin, 2936 Saturn Drive. I would actually like to make a motion to postpone the vote for my unique situation here until I can come up with practical, what's the term?
Difficulty.
Thank you, practical difficulty.
That is your right.
Thank you.
Any concerns by the board if this gentleman pulls back? Seeing none. We have 2 dates, and now, first of all,
3 days.
Don't we need a motion?
well, we do, but I want to see if he has an idea. We got two September dates and an October date.
I'll choose the October date at this point.
Okay, we'll get into that. So this gentleman would like to postpone to a date certain. We have one listed in October.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Flood,
I'll move to, at the applicant's request, to postpone case AB 2022-30 Adam Martin, 2936 Saturn Drive, Sewell number 0924053-024, to October 10th, 2022.
very good. I'll support. I have a motion by Mr. Flood, supported by myself. Any additional concerns by the board? Seeing none, please call the roll.
John Walker,
Yes.
Diane Danaskus,
Yes.
Mike Flood,
Yes.
Tony Cook,
Yes.
Dan Durham.
Yes, you are postponed till October 10th.
Thank you.
This gentleman in the corner, come on up.
My name's Pat Caputo. I live at 2929 Walmsley Circle. My house is a dream for your vegetation argument. 40-foot trees, arborvitaes, vegetation all over, planted by my wife, who's a master gardener. And I just want to tell you, it's very difficult to maintain. Much more difficult, way more difficult than a 6-foot fence. And the practical difficulty argument that you keep talking about over and over, it makes absolutely no sense. It makes absolutely perfect sense for these people. You keep mentioning Orion Township has 18,000 folks, right? Something like that?
40,000.
40,000. And how many residents does it have?
18, 19, 20,000.
Okay, so how many are on Walden Road between Baldwin and Joslin?
I'd have to look at your site plan, sir, that your homeowner association has. Your homeowner association has that in their site plan.
Right, but is it fair to say that that's a very small percentage of the homes in Orion Township? And what was that term you guys came up with? And ma'am, difficult, what is it, the practical?
Difficulty?
Yeah, whatever it is. That traffic that's on that road now, the mall that is there, that wasn't there when we all moved in, when I moved in, and even when I moved in, before my wife did all that hard work, it was difficult. But it's really, really bad now. They put in a roundabout. There's a new church that's down there that wasn't there. That mall is, it's good for going to grocery shopping. There was only one grocery store, and they used to price gouge out here. But, it's not a really good situation for us. And the garbage that comes in, and you can go check out my house, and you can see how many trees are there, how it's blocked off. It's exactly what you're saying you want everybody to do. And then the township is extremely disingenuous about this, because you go over the fence line, there's nothing but weeds. Those wonderful walnut trees that you described. You know how many walnut trees I've had to dig out of my yard? Because the city, or township in this case, did not take care of it. You know how many weeds grow? Because they do not do any weed control on that path. So the situation, we're talking about a very, very small percentage that does have practical difficulty. And it's not just somebody that lives on the lake. They gave good points, which you, frankly, haven't listened to. This is the second time I've been up here. My neighbor on one side of the house applied for one. My neighbor on the other side has applied for one. Every neighbor that's moved in next to me has wanted a fence, and they've all been misled by the lack of ordinance there. and they've been inconvenienced a great deal. So you can talk about your stockade, barrel, or whatever you think it's going to look like a fort, but you're not living the daily lives of these people. I've come here and I've said that before. I've gotten feedback, especially from some people who just won't listen, and they don't understand how small the percentage is. So what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to get an ordinance from the township, and it's just in the case of this man who spoke here, all right? He made the best point of all. Drive down Baldwin, where there's those fences, and drive down Walton, and you tell me what looks better. Until the township starts taking care of the property around there in a proper manner and starts listening to people who have genuine concerns. Don't complain about how you get all these requests here, because they're legitimate. There's a high percentage of people that pretty much everybody wants a fence on that road, and people who live in the other parts of that subdivision. And it's a small percentage of the people that live in Keatington. They don't want a fence. They don't care. So you're not listening. So stop being tone deaf and listen.
Can I answer just a couple brief points you made? So you're aware of it, practical difficulty is not an invention of this board. It is part of the enabling legislation.
I'm aware of that.
Okay. Because,
And I'm aware of what the term suggests.
okay.
Okay, and the term and the definition of it, there is practical difficulty. So I don't know what, your definition of it is, or whether there's lawyers, but there is without question practical difficulty. All right? Stop being tone deaf. Just asking that question was tone deaf. That man right there, he brought up a great point. If you ever looked at Walden, and you looked at where that garbage dump is, and behind Kroger, I would assume this man has to look at it like every day. All right? It's not a good situation. As a matter of fact, it's a terrible situation. And like I said, we've got more vegetation than you can possibly imagine. I mean, you can check out my house, and we still get tons of garbage in our yard. A fence would prevent that. And I haven't even applied for a fence, but I'm telling you, every neighbor that's moved in wants that fence. And they don't want it because they're just trying to get something. All right? And I've seen my neighbor who came in here real sincere, like last year. You guys just sat there, you didn't even listen to him, and he did everything he was supposed to do. They did everything they're supposed to do. You think that man wants to be here? I can guarantee you that I don't want to be here. And listening to this, quite frankly, is disturbing. So listen. What percentage of people, where are they asking for the fences? What does it look like down Baldwin where there are fences? And, it's ridiculous to make it like, well, if they put up fences here and they let it go, it's going to happen everywhere. Well, you have your practical difficulty or whatever you said. It's been mentioned to you over and over and over again. And it just goes in one ear and out the other. You've already made up your mind. You've already made up your mind. I remember last time. You don't listen.
Thank you for your input. Ms. Martin, were we still working with your case?
No,
We
we're done with
postponed
this.
you.
We're on.
Thank you. I just didn't want to leave you sit out there. Okay, next case, I've got an agenda right here in front of me someplace. Here we go. Is case AB 2022-31, Ken Backus at 2911 Walmsley Circle, Sidwell 09-20-452-013. Petitioner is seeking 3 variances from zoning ordinance 78, number 78, zoned R2. Article 27, Section 27.02A4, and Article 27, Section 27.05H2. Number 1, a 35-foot front yard setback variance from the required 35 feet to erect a 6-foot privacy fence 0 feet from the property line along Walden Road. Number 2, a 10-foot rear yard setback variance from the required 10 feet to erect a 6-foot privacy fence 0 feet from the side property line to the east. And number 3, a 10-foot side yard setback variance from the required 10-foot to erect a 6-foot privacy fence 0 feet from the side property line to the west. Do I have an applicant? Well, I need to have somebody come up and let us know what you'd like to do.
I think they're all going to postpone just based on what we've already experienced, so.
Like I said, I don't hear very good, so
No, you're doing fine.
I'm having a rough time with,
You're Mr. Backus from 2191, or 2911 Walmsley Circle?
it's me.
Okay. I just read your case. You've seen cases in front of you. You have a couple options. You can ask to be postponed to a date certain, or you can ask this board to vote on what you brought tonight. And other board members may have some questions for you. What would you like us to do?
They could give me some questions if they want to, but that's about it.
Board members?
Mr. Backus, will your homeowners association address this? Do you know if they'll address this? Because that's what's happening here. Your homeowners association, that's their boundary lines. Those fences are their boundary lines.
I have to ask somebody else that,
Okay, I've just, question.
okay?
Sorry, sir. Yeah. Because you know where I'm coming from. I said this is a homeowner association problem. They should be addressing this, not having you folks having to go through all this.
To answer, how are they going to address it?
That's my question to you. I don't know. I don't belong to your homeowner association. I guess you have to go to one of your meetings and find out.
All right, please.
Ma'am, wait a minute. I'm on the record as stating, I think this is a homeowner association problem. That's my record.
That's why you took our money and had us come before you.
Ma'am,
With due
I don't have any
respect.
choice to that, ma'am.
With due respect, you don't get a second bite out of the same apple you've been denied. Sir?
Because they're going to vote no, so just don't even have them vote. They're going to,
Give these gentlemen a second. He's advising this gentleman, best of his ability.
they're not going to vote yes.
I'm gonna just postpone.
Okay.
You, to a date, we have had previous ones, the 11th of October,
Is that right?
10th.
10th of October.
Okay.
I apologize, 10th of October.
Over.
Okay?
I'm sorry, I just don't hear good.
No, then you're fine, sir. Don't worry about it. I just want you to have, what you need going forward.
Chairman.
This night's not mine, but I can answer a little bit.
Right.
All right, I'll tell you what, if he's postponed, this case is done. If you might want to get back up, go ahead and have a seat. Let us decide on a motion with this, and we'll go from there.
I'll make a motion.
Mr.
In the
Dancy?
matter of ZBA case, AB 2022-31, Ken Backus, 2911 Walmsley Circle Drive, Sidwell number 09 20452 013. I move that this request, per the applicant's request, be postponed until October 10th. Is that correct? 2022.
I'll support the motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Naskis and support by Mr. Flood to postpone until October 10th. Anything from anyone, any of the other board members? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Mike Flood?
Yes.
John Walker?
Yes.
Tony Cook?
Yes.
Diane Danaskis?
Yes.
Dan Durham?
Yes. Your case is postponed, sir, until the 11th, or the 10th of October. Okay? Thank you. Next case, AB 2022-32, Mike Humbert at 2917 Walmsley Circle. Sidwell 09-20-452-012. Petitioner is seeking 3 variances of zoning ordinance 78, zoned R2. Article 27, Section 27.02, A4, and Article 27, Section 27.05, H2. Number 1, a 35-yard front yard setback variance from the required 35 feet to put a 6-foot privacy fence 0 feet from the property line on Walden Road. Number 2 is a 10-foot side yard setback variance from the required 10-foot to erect a 6-foot privacy fence 0 feet from the side property line to the east. And number 3 is a 10-foot side yard setback variance from the required 10 feet to erect a 6-foot privacy fence 0 feet from the side property line to the west. Introduce yourself, let us know.
My name's Michael Humbert, live at 2917 Walmsley Circle. I'd like to ask the board to postpone till October 10th.
Okay? We get a motion or discussion by the board? Have anything for this gentleman while he's up there? If we have nothing, could somebody step up with a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion.
Mr. Flood,
For the applicant's request to postpone until October 10th, 2022, in case of AB 2022-33, Catherine Baker, 2933 Walmsley Circle Drive, 09-20-381. Pardon me, whoop,
on the
I'm
bottom,
ahead.
bottom of the other page.
Whoop, I'm sorry. I've changed my page already. AB 2022-32, Mike Humbert, 2917 Walmsley Circle Drive, civil case 09-20-452-012.
Any motion was to postpone until the 10th of October?
I made that at the beginning of the motion.
Thank you.
Or,
I have a motion by Mr. Flood, supported by Mr. Naskis, to postpone this gentleman to October 10th. Anything further from the board? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Tony Cook,
Yes.
Diane Danaskus.
yes,
Don Walker,
Yes.
Mike Flood,
Yes.
and Durham.
Yes, you are postponed until the 10th of October. Before we call the next case and people start leaving, there's been things expressed tonight that maybe your green belts aren't being taken care of the way they need to be. Maybe the township has got some issues that they need to look at. The township has people to do almost everything. If you don't contact them to find out who those people are and who you can speak to, there's not a lot that I can do for you. But that apparatus is in place. I'm not going to sit here because I don't know them and say, oh, they're going to be right on top of it and do what they have to do first call. But the call needs to be made. And these are falling all next on the same case, the same date in October. We'll be facing this same thing again. We need to be facing it with some different information. I don't pretend to know what to tell you that information should be, but you're going to be out a little ways. You've got the time to do some looking. I would speak to the township regarding that. I would speak to the clerk's office, see what they say. I would contact Mr. Goodlow's office. He is a building official. See if he's got any ideas. There will not be an informal meeting on the record at that point. Use the time that you're asking for, and I would do the same thing if I were sitting in the chair where you're sitting. So I certainly understand it. Ms. Goodlow.
Sorry, go ahead.
Right. We had 2 of these cases our last meeting. They both postponed. So we're not gaining anything for the citizens or the township here. We just keep pushing things back. And we need somehow to bring this to some kind of fruition. All right, having said all that, I'll call the next case, AB 20, Ms. Goodlow, I'm sorry.
I would absolutely be happy to meet any of you out there to go over your situation to look for a practical difficulty. I don't doubt that it's not ideal living on that road. So I've sat on this board, I know the law and the ordinances very well, but I would be happy to try to assist you in any way I could.
Let me call the next case, and I'll ask for public comment, then come on up. Next case is 2022-33, Catherine Baker at 2933 Walmsley Circle. Sidwell, 09-20-381-004. Petitioner is seeking 3 variances from zoning ordinance 78, number 78, zoned R2, Article 27, Section 27.02, A4, and Article 27, Section 27.05, H2. Number 1, a 35-foot front yard setback variance from the required 35-foot to erect a 6-foot privacy fence 0 feet from the property line along Walden Road. Number 2 is a 10-foot side yard setback variance from the required 10-foot to erect a 6-foot privacy fence 0 feet from the property line to the east. And number 3 is a 10-foot side yard setback variance from the required 10 feet to erect a 6-foot privacy fence 0 feet from the property line to the west. Introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Catherine Baker, and this is my son Christopher Baker. We live together in the house along with his family, and so we have children there as well. And I want to thank you for your time also. Yeah, I know this is not an easy job. I sent out a letter, I assume it was sent out to you, was this correct? And I know it doesn't have all the pictures. I mean, like, there's a section of our property that basically, you can see well into our house and everything. And in fact, if you look at this picture, you can see my granddaughter in the window of we got a patio door, and then we've got the big picture window, which is actually to our living room. So you have a kitchen where the patio is and the living room. A lot of ours is privacy and the fact that anybody can see into our yard. And a 4-foot fence just doesn't make it. And I wish it was, I have a house in Brazil. We have 12-foot walls. My beach house had 20-foot walls. I know that, you know, I love the idea of bushes and, you know, hedges and all that other stuff. The problem was this was never planned evidently in this community. Like everybody's telling me, this started out like as a dirt road and everything. Pat is my neighbor. I adore all their trees and stuff. I mean, like he said, they put a lot of work, and his wife put a lot of work into it. It's incredible, but it is a lot to keep up, and also things die out. My son works for Davies. He is an arborist. We have behind us, we have some walnut trees that block the sun as it comes in the mornings, and then we've got these other, well, I think you've seen in those pictures, these other weird spruces, and then we had Scotch pine. Now, Scotch pine, to get the nematodes, we got one left, and it's dying little by little. The county takes care of that? These trees have to be tall and fall into the road if that were a possibility for them to remove it. And so until they're dead, they're stuck there. Now, we've got a lot of trees there that are half dead, or there may be some of them that aren't, the spruces aren't as big in that, so they're not going to take those out. But yet it creates enough shade where I've put in the other trees in there, they've died out. I'm trying new trees again, some other ones that are maybe a little more shade resistant, but they all require a certain amount of sun. They get it from the evening sun, but they don't get it most of the day or in the mornings because of what is currently there. I wish I could cut that out, but that's not my property. That belongs to the government here. It's not mine to go in there and be able to just cut it all down. And like they say, weeds, everything else grow there. And so my concern is because the way our yard is, you know, like there's been a swing set in that yard for like 30 years, long before I lived there. I talked to people that owned the place before. So if my granddaughter goes out there to play, we have to make sure that there's an adult out there. My daughter-in-law has caught a man standing there looking into her bedroom before, and she's put up stuff on her window that you can't see in now. But it's really sad because we have to remember to shut windows and the patio door. We got to make sure we close that up to where people can't see inside. And even with a 4-foot fence, it's not going to do it. A 6-foot fence would be much nicer. And the thing I can't understand is I can have a 4-foot fence on my property line, but 2 more feet up I can't. I don't understand what is the big problem with 2 more feet up if the same type of fencing. I don't understand why that is such a problem when it comes to people's privacy. It'd be nice to go in our backyard because people see in, and there's a lot of people going back and forth there. Not all of them are the greatest people in the world, you know. I don't know what to say. To me, it's a privacy issue also. I mean, everyone has something different, but you can go up and down this road and you will see difference in things. Like if somebody's got a pool, okay, that's a safety issue. We do this. I feel sorry for my neighbors that have the water there because that can be a safety issue. I don't know if they can be sued if somebody comes in on their property and then they goes to court, well, you didn't have a fence, you know, where it kept them out. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. But I do know with us it's a privacy issue. And there are, as I've said, there are pedophiles in the area, and those are the ones that we even know about. But, you know, I had been stalked when I was younger by a pedophile. And it's scary when you finally realize, because these people study where you go, what you're doing. It's so easy for them to see into our yard to know how we come and go, and because you can see our place from both sides then, so easily. And it's scary. I mean, we keep saying, oh, well, you shouldn't have to worry with the 4-foot fence. Well, you know, it's like we shouldn't worry about our kids in school being shot up. We're not doing the things that we need to do. This is a much more dangerous world than many years ago. Like I say, this used to be a dirt road. It's not a dirt road anymore. There's a lot of coming and going. And then in the evenings or sometimes when the traffic builds up, they're sitting there. So I've got all these cars sitting there that can see into my backyard, no problem. And so if my granddaughter's playing out there or the kids or anybody, they're knowing what you're doing. And so somebody that wants to study what you're doing, we've got condos across the street. You can sit in their parking lot and just study as we come and go in that backyard or in the front. So we don't have any privacy around our house, and I wish we did. And I would love to have the big trees like my neighbor does. But how many years ago did you put those in, Pat? How long?
5 years ago. It was a problem even before the road was paved.
Mm-hmm.
You know, from Joslin to the pier, and before the Kroger was in. You know, I feel bad for this man right here. He's got to watch Carrie Lee bring out their trash.
Yeah, and heck, I can hear those.
Come on.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry.
So, like I said, for me, it's a privacy issue, and I just don't understand if I can put a 4-foot fence there, what is wrong with 2 more feet?
At this day, at this time, it is prohibited by ordinance.
You can put a 6-foot fence in, 35 feet off the lot line.
Well, we wouldn't have a backyard at all.
We have the smallest backyard of anyone along.
It is permissible. That's your choice. The way the ordinance reads right now, you are permitted 35 feet off the lot line.
That's the reason we're asking for the ordinance, for the variance.
That's why the ordinance needs to be looked at and addressed.
But you have the power to approve the variance, so therefore you're just trying to push it on to something
Somebody
else.
else.
Trying to get it done properly.
I made my comment, sir. You can make your comment.
Right. Do I have public comment on this matter? Come on up. You folks can surrender the mic for just a second. I
Okay.
promise this gentleman a minute to talk.
My first comment is, the whole rules of this approval process has changed since mine was approved. None of this was talked about before. None of this. So, everything changed. We have literally 3 sets of 5 people on Baldwin that have gotten an approval, and now everything's changed on how you're looking at it and what you say needs to be met to make it happen. That's unbelievable to me. My other comment was on our homeowners association. Several requests are made that you feel it's their responsibility. Mark Tarkany, the gentleman that wrote the letter that you read earlier, he was a past president of our HOA. His replacement is Sarah Leakwig. I'm going to suggest that you guys somehow work together on what you think they need to do so that they can go and try and get that done with her. It's not an easy process. They're not concerned about our perimeter of the subdivision that involves a minuscule amount of the people that are in the subdivision. You know that, Mike.
That's the problem.
Yeah, well, and we're not going to get them to change that. But if you think that that's where they start, I know Sarah very well. She will actively try and do that. But like you say, the government doesn't act swiftly. Homeowners are slower, okay? And I can tell you on many other subjects as well. So please, one of you get together with them and tell them what they need to go talk to her about to get changed, because I don't understand it. So someone explain to them so they can have that to go with and actually have that tried to look into before they come back here again. Please?
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Flood, please.
Would it behoove Dave that they contact the Planning and Zoning Department on this issue with the KOA?
I don't think so at all. I think that's
Who would it
actually
be
the way
with?
to go. Yeah, I think, I don't know if it's a PUD or a straight site plan, but I would talk to Tammy about there and see if there's a possibility for the subdivision to go in for a total site to put a fence all along Baldwin.
Right.
I'm not optimistic, but if you can give them information exactly how you would need them to do that, that would be beneficial. I guarantee it would help.
Yes, I would say go speak with Tammy Gerling, our planning and zoning director. Now, I'm not 100% sure if that can be even done, but talk to her and she'll tell you whether or not it can.
Please repeat that again. What's the
Speak
name?
with Tammy Gerling and planning and zoning.
Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Same department you had when you went through to make this application.
Understand.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I'm actually,
Problem is too, I might want to add something. If lawyers get involved in this,
Guys, we want to be able
hey,
to
hey,
live correctly like all of
what I'm saying, if lawyers get involved in this, it's a mess. I agree.
Okay.
I'm making a comment, ma'am, to this gentleman right here. I'm being nice about it. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, hopefully, the homeowner association and the planning and zoning department can get this worked out without getting the legal teams involved.
That's what I'm suggesting, you guys, I don't know if you know Sarah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Excellent. So if they will get that information.
Sir, if you'd like to speak to these folks privately after the meeting, please do. But if you want to speak to your neighbors privately after the meeting, please do. If you,
I have one other public comment.
I have a case on the floor, right? You,
Oh, you had opened up public comment. I was just waiting to go after Mark.
all right, come on. Specific to these folks' case, or general to the entire sub?
General to the entire sub is, we've watched all the videos of all the other 16 people that got approved, the 3 that didn't get approved, and we thought we were doing the right thing. I went to all my neighbors and said, Tony Cook said, oh, get a whole group together. Let's do conformity and get a group. Did you survey your neighbors and get a group together? We did. Now I feel responsible for his $250, his $250, hers, theirs. I feel responsible for the nice people that came to defend us. I feel like you guys pushed us off and we're doing what we were supposed to do, and now you're saying, no, this isn't what you should do. You need to do something different. Somebody should have told us before we wasted all that money.
Well, I didn't know you were coming in.
Well, we applied, and you approved it, and you came to my house to look at it, so you did know we were coming in.
When you applied, I had no idea you were applying.
Okay,
We don't know those cases until we get to you formally, pay the money, put the formal request in.
okay.
I-
We watched all the
process.
other people that got approved and disapproved, we had the same issue. So we did that. So I wish we would have been denied or stopped at some point. So maybe that would be something that could be looked at. If you're not gonna pass any and you're gonna say it's up to the subdivision, it just would be nice if somebody else comes up here that they don't waste that money and all that time.
Thank you for your input. Thank you for your input. All right, come back up to the mic, folks, if you would. Your case is still on the floor.
This is a problem too, because like I said, when I moved in that subdivision and I talked to Marco, because I asked him back in the fall about putting up a fence. And I said, I understand it's only a 4-foot fence we can put up, and we gotta follow your rules, it's gotta be your type of fence. And they said, yeah, it's gotta be this board type fence that's, I don't know what the exact name for it is, but anyhow, he said that's what it had to be. But so then when I talked to him, when I came back, or should I say, I talked about that years ago, actually. And then I went down to Brazil to visit my daughter. Like I say, I own a house down there. I got stuck down there because of the COVID for almost 2 years. So I come back in the fall finally, when I finally got my vaccine and that there in Brazil. And I come back here, and the first thing I was trying to find about the fencing. So I contacted the HOA, and they said, well, you need to have a 6-foot fence, you gotta go for the variance. We've got it down on Baldwin in that. So I said, okay, all right, and I said, I wanna get this started early in the spring. So I contacted them in spring, didn't hear anything, and it was just a miscommunication. But anyhow, I got on board with all these other people. They said, you get a group together because that's what the people on Baldwin did. This is what I'm told. So I went, I've talked to my other neighbors. I got more neighbors that would actually like to have the 6-foot fence because of all the traffic and everything else along there, just the privacy and the noise and everything else. I wish we could have a better fence than that for noise, to be honest with you, but this is what I'm told we could have. And again, I look at it and I got, okay for a 4-foot fence, 2 more feet. We have to cut that fencing down. It doesn't come in 4-foot heights. It comes in 6-foot heights and you have to cut it down to 4 foot. So it's another thing, and like I say, to bring it in, I've got watering, I've got what was there, the play set and everything. It's like, I might as well not have a yard. I mean, I don't know, but right now I'm to the point where I've got to do something. I'd like my granddaughter to be able to play back there. I would love to have the privacy. I don't understand how Baldwin gets approved and then all of a sudden, no, Walden can't be approved. I don't understand that. Not one bit for 2 feet. I just I don't get it.
Can I ask you a question?
What?
That's your backyard, right?
Yes.
So would you consider a 35-yard front yard setback to not be relevant to your backyard?
What do you mean?
So it's called your front yard because you're on 2 fronts, 2 roads,
Yeah,
right?
I
So
understand that.
that in itself can be considered a difficulty, correct?
Well, it's
Now-
like the other
now, are
side of
you
my yard,
asking
I can't put a place set on the
Okay.
other side.
I'm trying to work with you here. I'm trying
Okay.
to, just follow me here.
All right.
Now, you're asking to put a fence along your side property line?
I'm asking for the back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. But, obviously this has, so you're not asking for a fence. You only need the side yard because you want to put it in the backyard, or the front yard, all the way in, and you need that 10-foot because you want it to go property line to property line, correct?
Right.
Okay, so if you have 35-foot yard, front yard, that's not your front yard. You have two front yards, that's a
Right.
difficulty in its own right, and you haven't spoken about that. Number two, you gotta talk about that prevents you to get to 35 yards. So where are you at versus 10-foot? Because 10-foot is the minimum off a regular front yard. So if that was your rear yard, you could put it 10-foot off your property line, right? So but because you have two front yards, you would share the substantial property. You want to have the same property right as others in the vicinity. Well, a lot of them don't have two front yards, right? So it's just some of these things and then you look at like your topography or property and, I would recommend, that you think about those things when you're trying to plead to this board, all of it.
So you're basically saying because it's considered a front yard, you can't.
I think having two front yards is somewhat of a practical difficulty. Yeah, now, the question is how far are you willing to compromise versus the 35 feet, right? Those are things that you need to look at. My
So if I
suggestion,
came in 35 feet from that line, it runs right through the middle of my patio.
there you go. I mean, does that make sense?
That would be even possible for to do that.
Exactly.
It's just-
So there's got to be a compromise in there somewhere, right?
Well, that's why I came here.
I'm just trying to,
Because I thought, they told me that you guys would be coming out there, so that's why I marked everything. I showed where, like, from what I understand, this electrical box, from talking with my neighbor that works for DTE, they approach it from the front of the house, they gotta be able to get to it. So if I put a fence between it and there, then I'm not following their rules either, so I don't know. It's been a very difficult thing because I can't,
that makes sense, right? You can't put it there.
Yeah, it has
And
to be
how
behind
far
it.
is that?
The only way to do that is to put it on the property line.
Okay, so the only way to do that, now where's the playhouse?
That is also inside of that.
Okay.
if you want, I've got the picture, if you wanna look closer at it.
Now, my suggestion would be to hit those points and maybe come back and, put that together, because then the board can see. Because when you did your application, none of those things were mentioned,
I sent the letter out. They
But it's
told
gonna- it's
me,
gonna be in the application.
right?
you gotta put it all on the application?
Well, that's what these board members get. When they go out to your property, right? They get an application that says, this is our practical difficulty. That's what they're looking at. You understand?
Okay.
So that kind of makes sense to me, to give them what your practical difficulty you're looking at, so they can assess that, whether it's a difficulty or not, and unique to your property. Sounds like your place that's been there how many years?
Long time.
Long time.
Pretty unique.
Before we ever counted.
The electrical box, that's probably not as unique. It's the property, not the sound, not the road, the property. So what's unique to your property?
That is just a couple of things. Like I said,
Exactly.
privacy is an issue
So,
too,
like
and
I
the
said,
fact of
I could-
safety for a
No,
child.
and actually, it's unique to all the properties along Walden Road, so it's
Okay.
different from the properties all around Orion Township. It's all the properties along Orion Road have this difficulty as
Two
well
frontages.
because of the traffic along there. That's
And
why Baldwin Road got many houses approved for that, because they all had one thing in common, and that's the traffic on Baldwin Road.
Did anyone here, and if I'm stepping over, please let me know, but did anyone here read the minutes from the ones that were approved? Did you? There's a certain, and I do believe there was very good motions made on those. I would definitely go back and look.
I made all the motions.
I know, and they were very solid, and I haven't heard any of these arguments from those to convince this board. Now, when we had those come in, obviously, yeah, it's a problem there, no question. But this board is not tasked on those things. They can only look at what they're presented, just so you know, which is on the application and what you present here. I know it's frustrating, so people tend to, get excited and they talk about the things that are actually affecting them. which is so true, but it's not what the basis of this board can vote on. This board has to vote on what is on the land. Yeah, and trust me, I don't think they have any skin in the game on whether you have a fence or not, but they have to do what they're taught. And early on, our planning and zoning directors and Lynn have been very good at getting them education on, what requires a variance and what can get a variance or not. So it's been a learning process as well for myself. So I think what I would do is, like I said, hit those points on that and come back. But
I didn't think I had enough room to write everything on that paper that they gave me.
but I didn't hear any of
Why I sent a letter,
those
they said if you wanted
arguments.
to explain more, you could send in information through the email, and that's what I did.
Let's pull us back on track, no disrespect to anyone, but you're at a situation now, and I absolutely respect everything you said, but we were hearing the very same thing from a whole bunch of different perspectives. And I understand what you're saying, and I believe the other board members do too. Does any other board members have anything for these applicants? If they don't, now you have a decision to make like your neighbors had before you. You can request a hard vote on what you brought tonight, or you can request a postponement and
I'm
get,
tired of postponing. I need a fence up there, period. We got a little child there. We just can't wait until something happens to her.
do you have any type of fencing up now?
No, because what we had there was that crisscross stuff, and that all fell down. When I came back from Brazil, it was all down there and rotted. I had to get it all out of there, cut it up, and have the garbage people take it away. It was a
You're
mess.
talking about the split rail fence.
Yes, it's horrible.
Been there 60 years.
Yes. So, and they're of no use for anything anyway, like I say, especially when it was all falling down and rotted.
So having seen what's gone in front of you, again, I would ask you to decide what you think is in your best interest to do tonight, right this very minute.
I don't see anything changing with this board. You say, oh, go do this, do the ordinance and all this other stuff. You're the people that could give a variance. You did it on Baldwin. And I don't understand, you run into the same problems, you're understanding different situations, and it's not enough for you. So I don't see this changing. I already wasted $250. I did that to support the rest of the people and what the HOA wanted, and I'm just done.
All right, the last thing I'll say, and then you have the floor completely to tell me. If you postpone, you're buying yourself essentially 2 months to work with your neighbors, the HOA, planning and zoning. the
Okay, and
building
I did
department.
that. I went and I canvassed our neighborhood, even other people that still want it, that hadn't applied. They all wanted the 6-foot fence. And I can't be going on years and years and years. I mean, how long is this gonna take? I don't know. I just know that Walden doesn't get much, it's like, you're not allowed to have it on Walden. That's what I've heard from the start, and that's what I'm getting,
Are you
so.
telling me you want to vote on what you brought?
I guess so, because I just don't see anything, and I'm pretty sure it's a no vote all the way along. So why do I keep postponing this and going through it more and more? It's useless for me.
Any questions by the board for this applicant? If not, we'll stand for a motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Cook.
Okay, ma'am, you were talking, but you've showed us pictures of the yard itself, and you've got some vegetation that's there. You talked about taking down the split rail fence that was there. What have you done in terms of anything with vegetation, in terms of trying to create?
I planted 10 of the emeralds, they all died. They gotta have a lot more sun. The problem is, the trees that are there, those pines, or should I say, we had Scotch pines, we got one left. Then we've got these spruce there that are very sickly. And they, if the township would take that out and we could plant something proper, like I say, my biggest problem is you can't plant more there because of what's there preventing it. You gotta have sunshine for a lot of these plants, and there's just not enough there because these block it just enough. And as I showed you, when I sent you that email, the few bushes that were originally put there, they look fine from my side of the house. But when you go to the back of them, they're like this. Now, they keep breaking. That's why you'll even see here. This broke off. I had a part there, the wind hit. They're weak. They're weak. They can't get the sun on that side of the street.
The also difficulty is establishing new plants, because you don't see there on the other side are 2 large walnut trees. They release a toxin into the soil that makes it very difficult for other plants to grow. That's why it's so difficult to get things that are new started there.
I have a question for Mr. Goodloe.
Yes.
I keep hearing the township brought up on these trees. Does the township own that road right away, or is that the Oakland County Road Commission owns the road right away?
Safety pass runs right there. I'm not 100% sure there.
I know there's a safety path easement through there.
Yeah, I don't think we own it. I think it is part of the road right away, but I know that the,
I want clarification. I don't think the township owns any of that property there with these trees. I think that's the road commission of Oakland County.
not 100% sure.
Because they went through and tore all the other stuff out of there. So it's Oakland County government, not Orion Township, on those trees.
Right, and like I said, if they're not gonna take
It's not the
care of it-
township. You keep saying the township, but it
Well,
wasn't.
I don't know, whoever's responsible for it, it's not taken care of.
Right.
And from what I understand, they don't take out any of those trees unless they're completely dead.
That's the road commission.
Mm-hmm.
You're dealing
So
with.
if they don't remove them, or they're partially alive, and I mean, some of them are very, I don't know if anyone got a chance to go out there and look at them, but if you walk through them, you'll see some of them, the tops are dead off of them, or there's very few branches on them. I mean, this one we got is going sideways. I mean, it's just, they're not healthy trees, and they block enough of what we wanted to do, because I would love to have some nice growth of that and stuff. I mean, I agree with you, it would be nice to have greenery instead, but we're not able to get it to go. And especially you've got, like you say, the black walnuts there, those are not good trees for other things around them.
Anything additional by the board?
You know, like I said, I've tried to do what you originally wanted, and it didn't work, and I don't know how to get it to work unless something else is done, and even at that, it's gonna take years now.
Have you changed your mind about postponing?
I want to get something up there. I can't wait on you people forever. I've gone through, I've been trying to get this process done for a while, and then they said, well, you gotta wait for these people, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. I've done it now. And I just think you ought to just have a heart and say, you know what, I see what you guys are talking about. Or at least in my case, like I say, it's something that, yeah, maybe years down the line, it gets approved finally. Well, that doesn't do anyone any good. I just want it'll be a little safer, because we're right up against an area where anyone can see in there, and it's just a safety issue.
You don't feel a 4-foot privacy fence would be sufficient?
No.
Which is allowed?
Even my neighbor that has one,
I asked the question.
no,
Okay,
because you can see over it.
okay. That's all that question?
You can see into our yard.
Okay.
Sir, if you would like to come up for another short, please comment.
I'll be very short.
Okay, thank you.
Two of those huge arborvitaes that my wife planted many years ago, two of them are died, or they're dead. So, we're gonna have to try to figure out this blockage thing here, that all of a sudden people will be able to start looking into our yard eventually when those trees fall. So what she's saying is true. A couple of other ones are getting brown. The other thing, there's two different parts of it. There's a path there. All right, there's a path that has grass on one side and grass on the other side. Now, when I see people cutting the grass, I believe they're from the township. The 1 or 2 times a year, they actually send somebody out there to cut the grass.
Correct.
They never trim the trees or do anything. And they sure as heck don't put any fertilizer down. The other thing, too, that nobody said or talked about, this man here talked about it, she talked about it, and her son. But if you go down, the first part of the subdivision was built in 1966. We live in the first part of it. The other part, I believe, was built in 69 or 70. And if you walk down, the people who originally put it together, they obviously changed their plans, because once you get down to Armstrong, all right, which is, there's only a few houses. We're talking about 5 or 6 or 7 houses here. All right, we're not talking about you have to go all the way down to Joslin, because those houses, their front yard is on their main street. Now, their side yard is there, and much of it's built on what you were talking about, a berm. There's a wall there and part of it. So nobody's looking into their yards like they're looking into hers. And her house, the way that thing is built, everybody can look into her house. I mean, her house is like, you might as well just open up a screen. All right, so what you have here is a practical difficulty. All right, now that stuff you're talking about, come on, man. All right, a bunch of rigmarole. You know,
I'm
the
trying to
practical
help.
difficulty here, what do you guys exist
Those
for?
are exactly what I was explaining, were practical difficulties that were never explained by the petitioners.
Well,
I gave
here's
them
a
5 of
practical
them.
difficulty.
5.
This affects like 12 houses maybe, all right? What are you guys are up there doing for? If you have any variances that you've ever passed, why wouldn't you pass this one based on some stubborn idea? With all due respect, when my neighbor came in, he talked about, well, the condo. They come out of the condo and they shine a light right into his house. Now, this guy's got nearly as much vegetation as I have, all right? But it shines a light right into his house. A 4-foot fence doesn't do anything. Didn't even listen to it. You went and you drove by there and said you examined it. You said you drove by, this house here, and then all of a sudden you didn't know their meeting was happening. You guys have got to open up your mind and your ears. Forget about the heart, all right? I understand where you're coming from. Everybody's got something that you would come up here with your heart. But this is so impractical, the stuff that you argue, and so tone deaf. It's absolutely unbelievable to me. You're talking about 12 houses and how many units? I mean, you could stop it. Nobody down Armstrong down the other way cares about it. Everybody that lives on Walmsley from Baldwin to Armstrong cares about it. All right? I mean, you don't have to be a genius to look at it and see it.
Thank you for your input.
I don't know, maybe you're saying I didn't do everything right the way it's supposed to be. I don't know what everything right is. I haven't lived in the States for the last 12 years because I've been down in Brazil. And I'm learning how to do things here. I'm told I go here for a variance.
Okay.
You people can override this and say, yeah, I can see where privacy would be an issue here as well. Safety, just the idea, things have changed. It's changed.
Thank you.
And just on his point there of saying that we didn't describe it, we did describe that you could see directly into our house from the road, and that there is a path there, and a 4-foot fence, obviously, I could look over a 4-foot fence, no problem, right into my backyard.
And I'm sure.
4-foot fence wouldn't be there. I'm 5'11". I can see over a 4-foot fence super easy. So a 4-foot fence would not stop people from being able to see into the way that our house is, which is completely lots of windows on the whole back side of it that anyone can see in, driving in a car or walking down that path. And the putting it inside of the thing is not practical because it would be on our concrete patio for inside the 35-foot thing. So we could not put it in farther on the property line. It's not possible. So that is our practical difficulty.
Thank you.
And that is explained.
Board members, any questions specifically for this applicant? Seeing none, applicant, do you want to vote on what you brought tonight, or do you want to reconsider postponing? Last chance.
What do you want to do?
Just vote.
Just vote?
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Naskis, thank you.
In the matter of ZBA case AV-2022-33, Catherine Baker, 2933 Walmsley Circle Drive, Sidwell number 09-20-20-381-0060004. I move that the petitioner's request for one variance from zoning ordinance 78 zoned R2, Article 27, Section 27.02, A4, and Article 27, Section 27.05, H2. Number one, a 35-foot front yard setback variance from the required 35 feet to erect a 6-foot privacy fence 0 feet from the property line along Walden Road. 2, a 10-foot side yard setback variance from the required 10 feet to erect a 6-foot privacy fence 0 feet from the side property line to the east. 3, a 10-foot side yard setback variance from the required 10 feet to erect a 6-foot privacy fence 0 feet from the property line to the west, be denied. because the petitioner did not demonstrate that the following standards for variance have been met in this case. First, that the petitioner did not demonstrate that there's a practical difficulty in existing that is not different from those in the zone, an area in which they reside. The petitioner did not establish exceptional circumstances or conditions that apply to the property involved, and that the variance is not necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of the substantial property right possessed. Further, based on the following findings of fact, the granting of this variance would I will leave it at that.
We have a motion to deny on the floor. Do we have support?
Support.
I have a motion by Mr. Naskis, supported by Mr. Cook. Anything further from the board? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Dan Durham,
Yes.
Don Walker,
Yes.
Mike Flood,
Yes.
Tony Cook,
Yes.
Diane Danaskas.
Yes.
Application has been denied. Next, before I call public comment, I want to lay down some fairly narrow guidelines. Public comment is your time to talk. Please do not ask the board questions because the board understands that they will not answer questions. The board understands that they are to listen. Do not make it personal, believe it or not. I know some of you won't believe this. It is not personal. The only person in this room I've ever seen in my life before was Mr. Caputo, who came to speak in behalf of another applicant, and he has not applied for anything. So I've never seen any of you before. Neither has any of the rest of the board, probably. So it is not personal. Don't make your comments personal. If you do and become abusive, I will ask you to leave. It's just that easy. Do we have public comment? Come on up. Give us your name and tell us what's on your mind.
Michael Humbert, 2917 Walmsley Circle. If I threw a pool in my backyard, you'd make me get a 6-foot fence, right? Oh, sorry about that, but I'm just. Yeah, I mean, this is just a money issue to me, personally. Like a pool in my backyard.
Thank you. Do we have any other additional public comment? Seeing none, move to communications. Do we have any communications? Mr. Walker, Mr. Flood?
Yes, the Fence Ad Hoc Committee, they're trying to set up another meeting. You know, it was sent to the Planning Commission, I remember a couple of months ago, and we've never got any feedback from the Planning Commission on addressing the ordinance. So now we're having another meeting with the committee and find out what's going on there. They're trying to get doodle poll together right now
Okay.
to do that.
I'll ask you the question. Who, if I was interested in having some input to the ad hoc committee, who would I contact? I live in the township. I'm a township resident,
Planning and Zoning Department.
and they
They'll-
can move it
they'll-
forward from
Any
there.
communications, we'll get that forwarded to the committee,
Very good.
once we set a date.
Will they take testimony?
Take what?
Testimony?
You'll have to ask the Planning and Zoning Department on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would
That's a
offer,
result of the last meeting we had when we were here for 2 hours on 2 different cases, which didn't get resolved either.
I would offer that if the ad hoc committee is looking for a date, they try to make it sooner rather than later.
Problem they're having right now is, this is August, and may not be till September or something, but until when school gets back in. A lot of families are on vacation and stuff right now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Walker, do you have any communications?
No communication. I have a comment, however.
We'll get that in a
Oh,
second.
okay, all right.
We have no committee reports of any kind other than what you just gave us?
That's it.
Now we'll have member comments. Mr. Walker, you go ahead and start, please.
I would encourage all of you and your friends to, I didn't know this form existed, but Mr. Goodlow showed me one during this meeting about it. You can go to the office and fill the application out, I presume tomorrow if they wanted to, Mr. Goodlow, is that correct? About getting this thing moving to have something done by the township to resolve this issue. Because it's embarrassing to sit here and have to say no to you folks when I like you folks. I'd like to say yes. But I've got these regulations in front of me that say it doesn't fit. And you can argue it doesn't fit till the cows come home, but it seems to be that's what doesn't fit. It needs to get changed. And hopefully you folks can be the force of change to make that change. That's all.
And I should make it clear, I did not do that. Member comment, it's our time to have public comment now. We'll let the room know, often the room's empty at this point. We'll let the room know what's on our mind and not take any further questions. Mr. Flood.
You've already closed public comment on the agenda, you did already.
Yes.
The follow-up for the public here, it was 1 year ago in July of 2021, we held a joint meeting with the Planning Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals, Township Board of Trustees, all stakeholders in the township to address this problem. We were told in no unequivocal terms, we wanted a 6-month moratorium put on any fences being built in here to get someone to start working on this. We were denied. So that's why we're here tonight, still dealing with this problem 1 year later.
Thank you.
We're just as frustrated as you are. And I apologize for any of you having to spend all this money and go through all this process.
That's the reason that the 15th.
Mr. Cook,
We can't have any comment, please.
Mr. Cook, Ms. Daneskis,
I'm done, sir.
any comment?
No, I mean, I hope I share our chair's comments that I hope they move on this sooner than later. Requests are coming in more frequently, and we're bound by the rules of our committee and our board and what we can do. But this is a bigger problem than each individual person coming to us for variances. So I hope that they address this quickly.
Cook, you have anything?
I do. I mean, it's kind of repeating what everyone else has said, except I just want to correct something that we were accused of doing, and that was changing the rules as each different group comes before us, and that's just not the case. We've got a set of parameters that we use, and we're very consistent with that. We do listen to what people are saying, and, in terms of going out and looking at the properties, we consistently do that. So I just want folks to know that things have changed, but there are also a lot of things that are going on the township's end that unfortunately you're kind of caught in the middle of. So that's what we're working towards, trying to find that happy medium. So it's unfortunate that this is occurring, but we've got to kind of do something to force their hand. And unfortunately, you all have the same difficulty, so it's not, a practical difficulty when it comes to the individual, because it's consistent across the sub.
Okay, my first thing, so I don't forget it, is I want to very much thank the board for their support of me in this position for the time that I've been up here. It's not been easy, but I appreciate the fact that you all come and you all do what you do when you do it. And I know everybody here does it to the best of what they believe their judgment of the situation to be. Having said that, people need to understand, and not speaking to anybody in person, because obviously, as I told you, often this room is empty. People need to understand that we are bound by rules on this board, things that we have to do and things that we have to look at in a certain way. People believe that we can stop and start these things at will. People believe that if we just put a blanket on the people on Walden Road, it would stop there. It won't. It would set what other people all over the township believe to be a precedent, and we would get waves from other subs. It would never stop. The situation is going to only be changed by some different rules. Now, as a group, you're in a position to speak louder to planning and zoning than any of us are as a single person. You can speak to the different boards, you can try to develop information. You are stronger as a group than we are singly. We are required to do what we do. If it looks like anybody up here was enjoying themselves tonight, it was a mistake. None of us are. So that's all I had to say, that we do the very best we can every single meeting, every single person. And I'm not, oh, I want your sympathy, I need your approval. That's not it either. We signed up for this. Sometimes it's easy and good, sometimes it's hard and not so good. It goes with the territory. But we have to stop hitting the same exact wall, meeting after meeting after meeting. And as Mr. Cook and others have mentioned, you are unfortunately the ones caught between us and the wall at this point. Ms. Danasis.
Add to that. If you come as a large group, if you bring the power of your homeowners association, if you work with the township, we've talked about the road commission, that stretch along Walden is more than just a fence need. There's a lot of need there for a lot of corrections. And if you can work together with all the agencies that are involved, get your homeowners associations to start approaching the township, the road commission, and come up with a plan for that strip, because it's more than just putting up a 6-foot fence to keep it out of your yard. It needs a lot more than that. And you have the power, if you work together with the other agencies and with your homeowners group, to perhaps really bring about a real positive change along that corridor.
Thank you. Mr. Goodloe, do you have anything to add? No? Okay, if we don't have anything additional for member comments, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are out. Thank you.